What if I told you there's a single fundamental law that connects that strange feeling you get in a crowded room, your most stubborn habits, and the very fabric of the universe itself? Well, it turns out there might be, and it's all governed by a simple, elegant set of rules. Think of this as the user's guide to the physics of you. I mean, you know that feeling, right? You walk through a door and something just feels off. Or you meet someone for the first time and your internal alarm bells just start ringing, even though they haven't said a single word. For centuries, we've just kind of dismissed this as a gut feeling. But what if your body is actually a highly sensitive instrument, picking up on real data your conscious mind can't process yet? Because what if that vibe isn't just a feeling at all? What if it's a detection? Science is now showing that these vibes are measurable signals. Think about it. A calm, focused person emits a pretty steady, coherent energy field. A stressed or angry person, theirs is chaotic, it's messy. So that feeling you get, it's not magic. It's your body's built-in physics detector reading the data in the room. And look, this principle doesn't just apply to the world outside of you. It's happening inside you all the time. What about those internal ruts we all get into? That one thought pattern, that one habit you just can't shake no matter how hard you try. It feels like you're fighting your own brain. Well, you literally are. And today, we're going to get into the physics of that fight. It turns out the secret code to all of this can be broken down into a pretty simple 5-stage pattern. A pattern that governs everything from how a star is born to how you form a thought. Energy, constraints, patterns, feedback, and evolution. This is the user's guide to your reality. All right, so let's start at the beginning with number 1, energy. Here's the crucial thing you gotta get. You are, right now, constantly swimming in an invisible ocean of information, an ocean of energy fields. Okay, think of the universe like a giant concert hall. The stage, the chairs, your own body, that's matter. It's the physical stuff we can touch. But the music, the sound waves traveling through the air, connecting everything, that's energy. Right now, Wi-Fi, radio waves, light from your screen, the heat from your body, they're all passing through you. They're the invisible music of reality. And here's where it gets really wild. Physics tells us that energy came first. Right after the Big Bang, the universe was way too hot for atoms to even exist. It was just this unbelievably dense soup of pure energy. And as the universe cooled, that energy froze into what we now call matter, which means, at the most fundamental level, you are made of frozen light. How crazy is that? Now, this leads to a really mind-bending idea from neuroscience called CM field theory. It suggests that your consciousness, your very sense of you, isn't actually located in your brain cells, the meat. It is the complex electromagnetic field your brain's activity generates. In this view, your physical brain is like a radio, and your consciousness is the song being broadcast. You're the music, not just the instrument. So, okay, if we're swimming in this infinite ocean of energy, how come we don't just go completely insane? Well, this brings us to the second stage of our law, constraints. It turns out your brain's primary job isn't to create reality, but to filter it. Your brain is basically the world's best bouncer at the nightclub of reality. It is constantly blocking out almost everything. We're talking billions of bits of information every single second to let in just enough for you to function. So the reality you experience, it's not what's actually there. It's what's left over after this massive filtering process. And this, right here, is the core of what's called the switchboard or filter theory of consciousness. And it's a radical shift in perspective. Your brain isn't a hard drive that stores and creates consciousness. It's much more like a radio receiver that tunes into it. You're not generating the signal. You're just selecting a station from a potentially infinite cosmic broadcast. So let's get to stage 3 and see how this all builds up. Patterns. When that tiny stream of filtered energy from the universe interacts with the constraints of our biology, patterns start to emerge. And guess what those patterns are? There are habits, our personalities, and all those mental loops we get stuck in. In chaos theory, there's this amazing concept called a strange attractor. The easiest way to think about it is like a river carving a canyon in the earth. Over time, the water finds the path of least resistance and just keeps digging that same channel deeper and deeper. While in your brain, your thoughts and behaviors do the exact same thing, creating these deep mental grooves that are super easy to fall back into. That is a strange attractor. So why? Why does the brain do this? Well, because your brain is incredibly lazy. I mean, it burns about 20% of your body's total energy, so it is always looking for a shortcut.
Thinking a new thought is like hacking a brand new path through a dense jungle with a machete. Following an old thought pattern and a tractor is like cruising down a 6-lane highway. Your brain will choose the highway every single time to save fuel.
Now, this is so important because this whole pattern-making tendency leads to a massive misunderstanding in our society. We tend to assume there's only one correct way for a brain to operate. But what if some brains that we label as disordered or broken are just different? This image perfectly illustrates the issue. We see a high-performance engine sputtering in a traffic jam, and we call the engine broken. See, our modern world, our schools, our offices, they're mostly built for what you could call farmer thinking. It's linear, it's step-by-step, it's predictable. But there's another mode, hunter thinking, which is all about high-speed, parallel processing and spotting patterns super fast. A hunter brain in a farmer's world often feels like a failure. But it's not a deficit. It's a Ferrari being forced to drive at 5 miles per hour. Okay, so if our lives are defined by these patterns, these strange attractors, and if they can even make a high-performance brain feel like a failure, the big question becomes, can we actually choose our patterns? This brings us to the final and most powerful stages of the law, feedback and evolution. I mean, this is the critical question, isn't it? If we're biologically programmed to be lazy and stay in those energy-saving ruts, are we just stuck? Are we just doomed to repeat the same loops forever? The answer is no, but it requires a very specific key to unlock the system. The answer is surprisingly simple. Just 2 words. Introduce novelty. The brain will not build a new, energy-expensive pathway through the jungle unless it is absolutely forced to. Things like awe, wonder, learning a really difficult new skill, traveling, or even a sudden shock. These are the things that jolt the system out of its comfortable highway and force it to pay attention. And there's this amazing biological reason why this works. When you experience true novelty, your brain releases a protein called BDNF. People call it Miracle-Gro for your brain. It's basically like flipping a chemical switch that tells your brain, whoa, pay attention, this is new and important, get ready to build a new map. It literally makes your neurons sticky, getting them ready to form new connections on the spot. And this is where the feedback part of our 5-step law comes into play. This whole process is a core part of what we call epigenetics. Your experiences, the novelty you seek out, they act as feedback from the environment. Now, this feedback doesn't change your core DNA, but it can flip these little chemical switches on your genes, physically rewriting your biological recipe and changing how your body and brain operate in the future. So let's put it all together. Here's the law of rewiring in action. First, you're in stagnation, an old pattern, an old attractor, just running on autopilot. Then you introduce a trigger, a dose of novelty, some new energy or information. This kicks off growth as the brain floods with BDNF to build new neural highways. And the result? Evolution. Your entire operating system gets an upgrade. You become more complex, more capable. So what does this all mean? It means you're not just a passenger in reality. You are an active participant, a biological radio receiver with the very real ability to change the station. Your brain is not fixed. It is a system that was designed for constant evolution. So the only real question left is, what new information, what new energy, what new reality will you choose to tune into next?